Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to On the Couch with me, Martin Coqueliffe. I had my mother's teeth in there, nearly slipped up and Wenken. Don't know what that means. Anyway, my guest this morning comes all the way from Australia to join me on the couch this morning. She's become a very close friend of mine and my wife's. She's one of my course organisers when I go to Australia, and she's an all-round good sport, to use an Australian analogy. My guest this morning is Mrs. Val Hood. Val, morning.
Hello, Martin. Thank you for having me. It's so exciting to be talking to you.
You're welcome. And as you know, we've spoke about this in the pre-interview ramble or amble, whichever we were doing. I think it was me rambling because we started this morning, ladies and gentlemen, and didn't press record. So this is take 2 without any outtakes. So we can't put the outtakes on at the end of the video. But I know you're passionate about mediumship, Val. I've been to your house. I've stayed with you, on a couple of occasions now. And you're very passionate about mediumship, but also spiritualism, which, like me and many other spiritualists, you've taken as your religion. Could you tell us what brought you into it and give us your experience of what brought you into it? Because what we're trying to do is show those people who are trying to develop mediumship that every medium has a different journey. So what got you into it?
Well, it's interesting because I had experiences from a very young child. So at the age of 7, my nan died, and we moved into the house to look after my granddad, and my nan was still there. And it was, oh my goodness me. And I didn't tell anybody that I was seeing her because I thought they'd think I was a complete nutcase. I am, and I don't care anymore. But I just kept quiet about it. And I had these various experiences that were happening to me. And one of them in particular, I was thinking about this today. She had appeared at night time. And I woke up and she looked at me and she was tucking my sister in. And my sister was sick. So she just turned around, looked at me, smiled, and just faded away. Oh my gosh. So every night I had a routine where every night I used to go to bed, draw the curtains, push the curtains up onto the window ledge, line my dolls up just in case she came through the window because I didn't know what was happening. And then I'd check the wardrobe and lock it, check under the bed and bury myself under the quilt, and I wouldn't come out for the rest of the night. That's how frightened I was. And then I got to the age of 16, and like 16-year-olds have tantrums. And I'd had an argument with my dad, and I went stomping up the stairs in the bathroom, slammed the door, and there she is in the mirror. And I thought, oh. So I turned around, there's nothing behind me, just this white door. But I turned around and there she is in the mirror, and I absolutely freaked out. So I stood very ceremoniously in the middle of the house, and I went, I know you're here. I don't understand. I'm frightened. I want to ask you to please go away. But, and I made them a promise. I said, when I understand and when I have more knowledge, I'll let you in. And they left me alone until I walked into a spiritualist church because I needed help. Because I was going through a very horrible relationship, and the only place I thought that I could get help was a spiritualist church. So in I walked, opened the doors to spiritualism again, and bang, 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 that was the start of the whole thing. So very, very interesting as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's amazing how many mediums have had a similar experience, and I don't want to keep repeating the things that I've done because the interview's about you, but very similar. And I've told other guests, this little boy in my bedroom terrified me under the quilt. Little things like that you don't realize are your first mediumistic experiences. So you have this fear as a child, you got to 16, then a little bit older with your bad relationship. When you went into the spiritualist church, excuse me, what started you developing the gift?
Well, so it's interesting because I went into the church because I needed help. I was 34 and feeling like, death warmed up. I just didn't want to fit into this world anymore. And I know I've spoken to other mediums who got to that point as well. Yeah. And I walked into the church and I sat in the back and I listened to what was going on, and I thought, it just felt like I'd come home. It was, and I know other people have said this as well, but it felt like I'd come home. And what was really lovely was the people at the church after the service. They came up to me, they talked to me, they introduced themselves, they asked me who I was, and I went back the next week. and the next week and the next week, and it became my drug. It became my fix. I watched the mediums on the platform and thought, oh my goodness, there's somebody else that's paying attention, there's somebody else that's watching over me, there's somebody else that's helping me, even though I can't see them. And every week I felt like a message hogger, because I got a message every single week from a different family member. It was just beautiful. So and the church that I belonged to at the time was West Wickham in Kent, and they had development groups. So they had the philosophy class, the speakers class, the beginners mediumship, and the advanced mediumship. I went to all of them because I never ever wanted to be a medium. That was the furthest thing from my mind. But I was just fascinated because I'd experienced this since I was 7. I was just fascinated as to what this was all about and why it all happened. So yeah, that was it. I went to all the classes and bang, 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 before I knew it. Yes.
That's really interesting, Val. And obviously I've told people at the beginning that you've moved to Australia. So in Australia, is the mediumship the same? Is it different? I know mediumship's the same. Mediumship is mediumship. But do they present it differently to how you taught or how you were taught? And have you had to adapt to the new way of delivering the mediumship?
Before I answer the question, and I will answer the question, can I just say why I'm in Australia?
Yes, of course you can.
Because that's a very, very interesting thing. So it was Christmas 2008. I'm standing in my kitchen with £1 in my purse. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. It was really horrible. And I just about lost my business, and I didn't know where I was going to be going. And I had the voices in my head, as we do. And they said, you've got to give up your business. You've got to give up your home. You've got to give up your country. You've got to go to Australia to teach. And I remember standing there saying, how the hell's that going to happen? I've got no money, no skills, no qualification. I'm too old. I was 54. The cutoff date for Australia immigration is 40-45 with degrees, and I haven't got them. Anyway, I'm here. So to answer the question, but what happened? I listened to Spirit. I believed what they were telling me, and I held on to that, and I didn't let go of that. So that's my passion and my understanding and belief of spiritualism. I do not let go of what they tell me. I hold on to it. And that may sound really crazy to some people, but to me, it was the right thing to do, and I'm really glad that I did. So yes, I mean, I've been SNU trained, as you know, and when I first got here, which was 10 years ago now, there weren't that many people over here who had the SNU training. And I made a big mistake because I went, oh, I've been trained in England. We've got the best training. We've got the best college. And Aussies don't like that. So I realized that I'd made a mistake, and I took a step back. And I just got on with teaching and demonstrating and doing churches to get my name out there. And then before I knew it, people were actually paying attention to what I did and were interested in the training. And I know in the last 5 years, I've actually put 13 new mediums on platform in Sydney. Now, that's a pretty big thing. Now, the training wasn't all done by me, but what had happened, and several of the students have told me this, is we've been with different teachers and got to that level, and we couldn't get over the line. The SNU training got them over the line, and that's what made them into proper mediums, not psychics, but mediums. And I'm pretty adamant about that, as the SNU are. So that's what happened. That's what happened.
Yeah. And do they present the mediumship in the SNU way, your students?
My students do, yes, they do now. And if they don't, they get a hard time from me. But, you know, I'm pretty, listen, you know that you and I have been through the training, and we know how tough that is to go through that protocol, the boards that we have to sit. And I've been taking my students through those processes, and they've got to make sure that they get it right. So I now watch them out on platform, and it is such a fantastic feel. It's like watching my babies, and they do a great job. They really do a great job.
I think it's always nice. I don't like to say they're my students, but it's always nice when somebody who's been with you, and then you see them and they're on the platform and they're out there working. There's a sense of pride, particularly when you see them doing well, you know. And not every student sticks to it, do they? Some of them go by the wayside, but those that stick to it, it's lovely to see them and to see them demonstrating what you've taught them. It's very nice.
It is.
Now you have a family, you're a mother and a grandmother. How did that affect the family when you moved there, and how do you juggle the two jobs?
Well, it's interesting because I've now got 3 children, and one's married to an American, so lives in America. One's married to an English girl, lives in England, and my daughter married an Aussie and lives around the corner from me, which is interesting. And that's another story. Many years ago, when they were 13, 12 and 2, Spirit said my kids would be in 3 different continents. And I knew it would be America, England and Australia. And I got the children in the continent wrong, but I always knew that I would be with my daughter. So we're here. And we were supposed to be in England, according to me. Shark scientist, I thought, would be here, and musician in America. So shark scientist is America, musician is in England, and she's here, and we're both here. So I knew that would happen. And you're going to have to remind me of what the rest of the question was.
How have you managed to juggle being a mom and a professional medium?
Well, it's interesting because going back to my West Wickham days, Victoria was 2 years old, and being in a difficult relationship, I couldn't leave her at home because that was just a no-no. So she came to church with me, and she would scribble through the first part of the church service, and then she'd fall asleep and snore through the rest of the church service, and every week the church got used to it. So I had to juggle that, and I know I was also quite sick at the time when I was doing my development. And I'd come home from work, I'd fall asleep on the sofa. Spirit would wake me up in time to go to my class. Every week, it was without fail. It was just wonderful. And then it wasn't until, so I was 54 when Spirit told me that I had to come here, by which time I think Victoria was about 18. So she was just about leaving the nest. The boys had already left the nest. So I was in a position, quite luckily, I suppose, where I had that freedom to then, I now can go and do what I want to do. So I was able to do the traveling back and forth to Australia, never in a million years thinking it was going to be a permanent thing. And I feel blessed that it is, because I knew I'd come home. So now I don't have to juggle. With her being around the corner, I can still help her out. But the boys are independent and doing their own things.
Good. Quite recently, you've given yourself a high profile on social media with your chats where you're helping people. Some people say they were lessons. I've watched a few myself, very interesting. What got you into doing the online, well, on the social media kind of presentations that you do?
Well, it's funny because about a year ago I had a try because other people were doing them, and I thought, oh, I'll give it a go, but they sort of just petered out. I didn't do them regularly. And then when the lockdown came, I had to get back from the UK quickly, and I actually arrived in Australia the day they were closing the airports down here. So and I thought, I've got 14 days at home. What am I going to do? So I thought, let's do a live and see what happens. And I made a promise that I would do those lives for 15 days while I had my 14 days of lockdown, the final day, and never thinking that I would have enough information to be able to sustain those, because I did nearly an hour every day. And I sang to everybody, which probably, oh dear, no. But I really, really enjoyed it. And it got me through the lockdown. But the feedback that I got from other people was, oh, we really look forward to 10 o'clock when you're coming online. We're really enjoying the information you're sharing. We're really enjoying knowing your story. And they were saying things like, we've experienced the same, we've been through the same, we didn't know that that's how that worked, So yeah. I tried to make it as educational and as interesting as possible. And out of that, I've actually got a radio show, would you believe, which is quite interesting. So, but I really enjoyed it. And when the last Saturday came and I had to finish, I was in tears because I thought, I've just done this for 15 days and I'm going to miss this. So I'm now doing it on the radio, but once a week instead. So I can still do what I was doing.
So you've thrown in an interesting point there that we didn't have on the preset questions. How did the radio come about and how often do you do that?
Well, I've got a friend who has a radio station, and for years I've been saying, you don't do anything with it. You need to do something with it. You need to expand it. And of course, lockdown came, and I was doing the lives, and I was push, 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 push. And he's the one who's done that. So he's expanded his licenses and his what he offers, and he's now getting guests in once a week. So I'm a once a week on a Monday night, and then he's got other people that come different nights as well. So it's a bit of a there's no set pattern to what I do, so it's a bit of a free-for-all at the moment. But I'm sure it'll fall into like the lives did. You know, I wasn't sure how that was all going to pan out, but yeah, I'm just really excited that that's happened. And you never know, I might get something else out of it.
Sounds fun. And we've talked on a couple of the questions that you are a professional medium. When and how did you make that transition from a 9-to-5 job to a job that, as most professional mediums know, you can't say it's 9 till 5 because it varies from where you go. It can be long hours, it can be short hours. How did you make that transition?
Well, I was saying to you in 2008 when I had no money, the business, it was just about to drop out. And I thought, and it's really interesting because in the time that the business, I had my business, I built it up and then it dropped. And the mediumship's building up, and then I'd build the business up and it would drop and the mediumship was coming up, and I did that over a period of 10 years, I think. And then in the end, I think it was about 2008, the same time, and Spirit said, we've been telling you, get rid of that and do this. So I thought, okay. And that's when I shouted at them and said, all right, I'm now listening. And that's when I did that slide across. So the business went and the mediumship just took off from there. So I literally ditched everything else and put my whole efforts into being a full-time medium, which was not easy.
No, I think we need to point out there, because I remember I changed in 2014 after being a professional soldier for 24 years. I was a civil servant for 22 years. And my development started in 1997. And it's amazing how the work crept up, where, you know, my full-time job was, the mediumship started to overtake it. And I was using all my annual leave to sort of go and teach at Stansted. You know, it wasn't as regular as now, but I was using all my annual leave to go to Stansted, to go overseas and do other things. And I think it's important that we point out to people who are thinking of starting it, have enough work before you decide to finish that 9 till 5 job. Make sure the 9 till 5 job is dropping behind your mediumistic job. Have you any other advice on that, Val?
Well, it's actually funny that you say that, because this is a question that I ask students when they first come to me. I ask the whole group, what experience have they got, and what do they hope to gain out of the training? And if anybody says to me, oh, I want another form of another way of earning a living, I never see them again, because that for me means that they've come into it for the wrong reason. And this, as you know, is not about the money. It's about what we do to help people. So like I said, I did that 15 days of lockdown. I know I couldn't go anywhere, but I did it for the love of it. I've done so many volunteer things, the same as yourself, since we've all been in lockdown, and I've done them for nothing. Last night I was demonstrating in the UK. In 2 weeks I'm demonstrating in the UK with yourself. Last week I was doing something, and it's just been a continuous, but it's important to give as well as to receive and to take. But you've got to do this work with the right intention, with the right passion. Yeah,
I totally agree. Now, that leads me on to the next question, which I've asked other mediums like Libby, Tim, and a few of the others that are professional mediums. And people see the life of a professional medium as really glamorous. How would you describe the life of a professional medium?
You know, it's so funny because people say, oh, you must be so rich and you must be so, because you travel extensively, blah, blah. What they don't realize is that, I saw Tim mention this the other day, you fly at crazy hours, you've done all sorts of, you know, hours of traveling, and then you're into a dem, or you're into a workshop. And it's the same. I drive all over Australia, as you know, and I don't think about it, but I drive 14 hours and then I do a workshop. And I do it for the love of it, but I know it's exhausting. It is exhausting. So there's no glamour in this at all. And you know, you're doing your your interview now at 11 o'clock. It's now nearly 9 o'clock here for me, and I've been doing DEMS at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I've been doing one of my classes at 5 o'clock in the morning for UK students. So there's nothing glamorous in that. You know, you've got the matchsticks and the makeup hides a multitude of sins. But yeah, you do it because, or I do it because I'm passionate about doing this work.
I think one of the things that surprised me when Stephanie and I first came to stay with you, we had that week and a bit, where was it 10 days we stayed with you. What surprised me, talking to all the lovely friends like Brett and Kathy and Maria and all the people, you know, I remember you all, but I can't name you, or Luna and a few others, Elizabeth, and how they were telling me the distances they travel to a church with very little expenses. And I know you're trying to, it's a big oil tanker that you're trying to slow down and change to get people to realize that these people are dedicated people and traveling hundreds of miles. Whereas in England here, if I travel 12 miles, I could go to 3 different spiritual churches.
Yeah, we, well, I know a couple of months ago, and this is the sole point as far as I'm concerned about expenses, because you very rarely, I think there's only about 4 churches that I would name that would actually pay your expenses, and they really don't cover the mileage, but that's another point. But I know a couple of months ago, one of my students had volunteered to do a church service, but something for work cropped up. So I said, I think I can do that. So that was 2 o'clock. Right, the north end of Sydney, and I was at 5 o'clock at the south point of Sydney doing another church service. So I had to drive 2.5 hours to the first one, do an hour-and-a-half service, drive another hour-and-a-half to go to the other church service, and then another hour-and-a-half back. I got absolutely diddly squat for that, and there was no respect, there was no thanks. And I think, well, you know, it's really, really unfair. And when I watch my students now who are going out, and like you say, they travel. Sydney is a big place, and we don't have, like you do, churches on top of one another. We have to, if we go to the Blue Mountains, for instance, that's about 4 hours drive, and I travel up to Newcastle, that's 2.5 hours drive. And sometimes you do it in one day, and there's just nothing comes back from it. And I think that's a bit sad, really. But we are very, very spaced out.
Yeah, I think what brought it home to me, the sheer size of Australia, was on the first tour we did with you, and you lent us the car because we went to visit Stephanie's family, and it was an 11-hour drive to just over the halfway point. And
you went, oh, that's
realize,
okay.
But I mean, you lent us the car because we wanted to go the scenic route. We could have gone a quicker route. It would have only taken 12 hours the whole journey. But the journey on the scenic route took us 17 hours. It's like you could travel up and down the length of the UK twice in that time. I think that shows the sheer size of Australia. Now,
and you were so confident. You were so confident about the fact that you wanted to do that. And I thought, okay, just let you go.
And are we going to tell people what happened when you got the little letter through the door?
I said to you, don't speed. Watch your speed. And how many did you get?
And people think, oh, he must have been hammering. But I was doing 110 in a 100 zone, and that's how strict they are in Australia. Yeah. You know, I think the other one was in the 60 zone. We call them Gatsos here, one of the static cameras. Didn't see it, and it's just one of those things, you know. Yeah. Anyway, the policeman was very nice to me when I told him I was a minister, and he gave me half a fine. So he reduced the fine by half. So I blessed him. I'm just kidding, folks. No, we've come to a part now. I want to give you a chance to advertise what you do, because I know that things are growing for you in Australia. And tell us about some of your workshops, the classes that you do, and how people can contact you.
Well, I think one of the lovely things from the lockdown is that everybody's work has changed. I know my work has totally changed. I had to scrap my whole diary and rethink, and you had to be thinking on your feet. So I've put everything on online with Zoom and Facebook. And I've been doing, so I booked a course of 6 weeks of classes, and I've got 5 classes a week at the moment. One of those is 5 o'clock in the morning in the UK, and the others are in Australia, and they've been so well supported, and people are absolutely loving them. And what they've said about them, you know, if you're in a classroom and you're not watching everybody, you know, focused, so people are talking, or they're on their phone, or they're doodling, or they're not really sometimes paying 100% attention. And one of my students pointed out the other day that while you're doing a Zoom class, you have to be totally focused on what's going on. So it's really, I think it's enhanced my teaching skills as well as what the students are doing. So there's 5 classes and it's a 6-week block, and we've just got to the halfway point, and everybody's going, I hope you're going to continue them, which I am going to. And it's wonderful because I've got students from America, the UK, New Zealand, Australia. So this platform actually opens up the work to the whole world. So I may not have to travel anymore like I used to, which is a bit sad because I enjoy the traveling, but I can do it all from here, as you're doing, and you can reach the whole world. Yeah. So
go on, sorry.
I will carry on as soon as lockdown is over. I'll be going out and doing shows again, because I love the demonstrating. That is one of the things that I really enjoy. But the workshops, I still will do the traveling, because I go to places like there's a little place called Bordertown. It's in South Australia, and it's got a population of 2,000 people, and they're country people, and they love the fact that I drive all the way there, and it's a long way away. I drive all the way there to do hands-on work with them. And I've said to them, I can do the online. No, we want you here. So they're just waiting with bated breath for me to come back. So I still will do some of the traveling, but you know, it means that I can spend more time in my garden now or whatever. But I still do the readings, and the readings have been very successful online as well. And I think people are a little bit wary about you doing readings online, because they say, oh, the energy's not the same. Well, it is exactly the same.
Amen.
And the classes, as I say, are so successful. And what's really lovely is the 6-week course that I booked. I said to everybody, right, we're going to do a 6-week course, and at the end of it, we're actually going to do a live demonstration, and you're going to be assessed at it. And they all went, ah. But I haven't told them who's assessing. I've just told them that he's somebody very special, and they're all really, really blown away by the fact that that is going to happen. So I'm very blessed with the people who are in my life that are working with me and helping me. But I want to put good mediums out on platform. And when I say mediums, I mean mediumship mediums, evidential mediums, not psychics, because we can all do psychic, but we can't all do evidential. And that I'm passionate about. So, and I'm still training myself. So, and I'll never stop training. I'll still just keep learning and learning, because the more I learn, the more knowledge I get, the more I can give to my students. So for me, that's very, very important.
So where would people looking for you find the information? On Facebook, or have you got a website that you'd like to advertise?
Oh gosh. Yeah, Facebook, which is Val Hood, and I've got Sydney Spiritualist Training Centre, or I've got Val Hood Evidential Medium, and then I've got Val at valhood.com, which is my website, and that's about to have a relaunch in the next week, which is very exciting. But there's going to be new stuff or new events that are going to be put up on there, so watch the space.
Excellent. And one thing I've noticed working online, I'd never done this. Now I'm doing readings for the Arthur Findlay College through this, using this media to help them to, generate some income. But Stephanie and I opened the home circle on Tuesday night. We opened the home circle on Zoom, and it's gone from 2 people, myself and Stephanie, to some nights 29 people on a Tuesday evening. And it's sitting, and it's a healing circle. It's sitting for developing my trance healing, and we've had some fantastic experiences. So it is a lovely media. And sadly, we're coming to the end of the interview, and I'm going to ask you the standard question that I've asked everybody, because everybody's given different advice. As the first question is always similar, how do you come into it? What advice would you give to a budding medium who wants to start this kind of development, not necessarily somebody who's already in it, but somebody who's just starting on the pathway?
I'd say run the other way. No, I don't mean that. Listen, it's a scary thing. And when I look back now over my own development, and I tell my students, I sat in a development circle for 8 years and got nothing. I may have my timing wrong on that, but it was week after week and I didn't get anything. And then I sat in the church development circle, and there would be 15 to 20 people every week, and they would have so much information, and they'd come to me and they'd say, "What have you got?" And I go, "Nothing." I was so frightened to open my mouth and speak up. So I make sure that I do my classes in a very relaxed way, so people are more willing to talk. But the one thing that I would say is, go to as many teachers as you can, because you pick up a bit from every single teacher that puts a unique package together for you. Never stop learning, and don't be frightened to continue learning. I see some people who go to the same teacher all the time and they become a clone of that teacher.
Yes, yes.
And I think that is a real shame, because Spirit want to use your personality, and they'll bring their personality through as well. But if you're going to be a clone of somebody, then you're actually limiting what the spirit world can do for you or do with you. So it's use your own unique self to work with the spirit world, and don't be frightened by it either. I'm trying to think what I've been saying to students this week, but you've got to be trained by people who have the right background. I get so cross with somebody that's done a workshop and they're suddenly a medium and then they're teaching.
Yeah.
They don't have any right to do either of those things. You and I have been doing this. I've been doing this 30 years, and I've gone back and trained and gone back and trained. And my last Arthur Finley training was about 6 years ago, because my confidence had gone down. So I went back to the college to get that back up again. And it really did the trick. And here I am, and I'm on a different level altogether. But yeah, it's got to be about training. And it's also got to be, you've got to recognize that doing this work takes courage and determination and passion. If you don't have those three things, don't bother. No. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with you there, Val. Sadly, our time together has come to an end. We have become good friends. It's been lovely to sit with you, even though we're not in your lovely sitting room or that lovely garden at your new house. But ladies and gentlemen, the interview's come to an end today. My guest on the couch has been Val Hood. Thank you very much, Val.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. And I'll see you in the next video. So thank you very much.